go through a similar situation, and one person out of that faces trauma. Welcome to Rise Within. Today we are joined by Kaushani Sarkar, who is a counseling psychologist who will answer all these questions and more. Welcome, Kaushani, to Rise Within.
Hello, Abby. It's good to be here.
There's a huge load on your shoulder to answer some very, very difficult questions. And trust me, it's not going to be just a few. There are a whole array of them lined up for you. To start with the basics, tell me, how will you explain trauma in very, very simple words?
Right. So I'm glad, Abby, that you actually touched upon this subject. I feel there was a time when people were also talking very casually about depression. I am depressed. I feel I'm getting depression. The same thing I feel is also happening with trauma these days. Without sounding morbid or sarcastic, what I want to say is that I think people need a lot more clarity about what trauma is, what stress is, and I'm so glad that you decided to touch upon this topic. It's very, very important and needed. From a clinical standpoint, trauma is not something which is defined by the event itself. It is defined by our nervous system's response to that event.
Right.
Like, for example, when two people experience a similar situation, one can walk away shaken but functional at the same time, while the other person may feel completely shattered.
Right.
And you might ask that why is there such a difference, right? So the difference lies in how their brain and body interpret safety and threat.
Right.
When something overwhelming happens, we don't have the internal or the external resources to process it, right?
Right.
The brain perceives that as danger.
Right.
Now, the amygdala, which is, a region in our brain that is responsible for our fight and flight responses, our emotional processing, our pleasure principles. So it acts as our emotional alarm system. Okay, it gets hyperactivated.
Right.
While the prefrontal cortex, which exists at the frontal region, it actually helps us to think logically and regulate, right? And the body, at the same time, it releases the stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and all of this prepares us for survival, our survival instincts. Okay. Now, if this intense activation, if it doesn't get resolved or integrated, that experience gets stuck in our nervous system. That's what makes it trauma. The body keeps reliving the threat even after that danger has passed.
So then
Let me give you a
small between trauma and stress at this level.
Right. So again, this is a very important question. Let me just start off by saying that stress is something which is normal. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they come to us, like they often expect that, okay, now I'm taking therapy, so now the stressful situations in my life is going to vanish or evaporate.
Right.
Or I don't have to deal with stress at all, or I would not feel stress at all.
Right.
That is not true. Okay, because Stress is the body's normal and adaptive response to any pressure or challenge.
Right.
Right? It basically activates our nervous system temporarily. Our heart rate goes up, the adrenaline is released. But once the situation passes, our body returns to balance. Okay.
Right.
Now, there are two different types of stress. Okay.
Okay.
One is eustress and the other one is distress.
Right.
Okay. Now,
Wow.
eustress is basically the good kind of stress, the kind of stress that actually makes you feel motivated that, okay, I have to do this so that I could get into a good college. I want to get into an Ivy League school. So for that, I need to score so and so marks, right?
Just
So
on a
that is the
lighter
good
note,
kind.
just on a lighter
Yeah.
note, Kausani, I thought the good stress is what the stress the wife gives to her husband normally.
True, absolutely. I think that is a very good kind of stress. It builds resilience, and it also teaches a man to treat a woman right. So, absolutely agree with you on that one. But yes, the point is when it comes to eustress, we need that. Okay, we need that to build motivation. We need that to build resilience. We need that to understand life, and it also prepares us for various situations which might not be according to our liking or our favor, right? But the same stress, when that becomes a lot for us. Like, for example, I am studying, but at the same time, I'm not focusing on anything else. I'm not talking to my friends. I'm not talking to my family. I'm not eating. I'm not sleeping. I'm literally just, saying things in my sleep,
Right.
right? That is when we know it has transitioned to distress. Now, distress is the difficult or the bad kind of stress.
Okay.
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 And distress is of two kinds. One is the temporary stress, where the nervous system, again, it is temporarily activated, and
Right.
then again it returns to back to the balance, back to normal. Now,
Right.
chronic stress is something which is the second type of stress that stays on for a long time. And chronic stress can actually contribute to a person having depressive traits or anxiety traits or even psychotic traits, right? Now, trauma, on the other hand, there's a great distinction between stress and trauma. Trauma, on the other hand, occurs when an event or series of events, it overwhelms our ability to cope or integrate that experience. The
Wow.
nervous system doesn't return to baseline. It gets stuck in survival mode. That's when the body and the brain keep signaling danger even when the threat is over.
So the
Like,
defense
let me just give,
mechanism just kicks in, right? They're
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely, absolutely. Like, let me give you a small example. So a while back, I remember one of my distant relatives, we had gone out, and she had a little child, okay?
Right.
And I remember we were standing away, like far away from a drain. Like, it was so far away, people are like we could barely even register that there was a drain.
Right.
But the little kid was standing with us and he started crying. His face got red and everything. We were very concerned what has happened, okay, suddenly. And he is not usually a child who cries too much. So we were also very, anxious about that. Then we see the mother comes out, picks up the kid, goes inside, and the kid stops. The moment he's inside, he stops. And we ask her what happened. And then she told us that a month ago, that child had fallen into a drain while playing.
Wow.
And because he was with his friends and there weren't any adults around him, nobody could immediately run to rescue him. So he was very little, so he was literally swaying away in the water, and he was very like He was feeling helpless, he was feeling upset, he was feeling scared. And then an adult rescued him. So in his mind, his body and brain is signaling him that, okay, there is a danger. You remember that drain? We fell into something like that, you know.
But
So so
that
while
has been the trigger, right?
yes, absolutely.
Right.
So while stress leaves us tired, trauma leaves us changed. It reshapes how we perceive safety, trust, and sadly, sometimes even ourselves.
Now, coming to the most critical part of dealing with trauma,
Yeah,
I know that there are 5 responses that that is there to any circumstances related to trauma. We have touched upon it very briefly, Kaushani, in our last episode, but your insight would be absolutely fantastic to understand it better.
Uh, firstly, I want to begin by saying that Abby, I'm very, very impressed that you spoke about the 5 trauma responses and not the 3 trauma responses. Because most of the people they are familiar with majorly 3 types of trauma responses, as we have learned that back in our biology in classes 9 and 10, that the triple F response is what we are aware of, but there are 2 more responses as well. Okay, so I'll just explain a bit about all of these in briefly. The first one is fight. Okay. So now this response, it activates when our body believes it can overpower the threat.
Right,
Like you would often see that that kind of a response shows up as anger or irritability or even sometimes a need to control,
right.
right? So it is not aggression for the sake of it. It's self-protection,
Yeah, yeah,
something that kept you safe once, you keep on doing it, right?
right.
Or sometimes even as a child, probably you have seen that your parents or any authority figure uh, took help of this particular response to keep themselves safe, and it worked in their favor. So you start it, right?
Copying the same
That's the
thing. Yeah,
fight. Yeah, that's the fight response. Now, the flight response. Now, here the instinct is different. The
mm,
instinct here is to escape. So, you might see it as restlessness or overworking, perfectionism, the inability to relax. So, because it's the nervous system saying, if I keep moving, I'll stay safe,
mm,
right? The third one is freezing. Okay. Now, as the name suggests, it's a very, it's self explanatory, I believe, because we are neither fighting nor fleeing, because that doesn't seem possible.
yeah,
Okay. That's when the body shuts down to survive. So we might feel numb, disconnected. Okay. Or like I'm watching my life from the outside.
yeah.
It's not laziness, it's a biological pause button.
Procrastination
We,
is one of the examples,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Very well, Kota. So, yes, it happens a lot, even in youngsters. And I get it quite a lot of times when parents come to me and say that my child has grown very lazy. My child doesn't do the basic things. My child doesn't follow the rules. And the child keeps on telling that I just don't have the energy anymore. Now, the parents are like, but we are feeding, you're not doing any work. Where is your energy going?
yeah,
The thing is, the child does not have emotional energy left.
yeah. They feel drained, right?
Exactly. So it's the pause. The brain is like, no, we need a
Yeah,
pause. And it's not a very like very temporary, sometimes freeze can exist for a long time, a perpetual period of time as well, right?
Absolutely.
Now we come to the fourth one, which is fawn.
Yeah.
Now, fawn is something which there are a lot of discussions about this
Yeah.
particular statement. Uh, so this is the please and appease response, is what we therapists would
Absolutely.
like to call it.
People
So
pleasing.
basically, yeah,
Validation. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is when my safety is maintained by keeping others happy.
Yes.
So it often develops in people who grew up around unpredictable or critical caregivers. I don't know what mood my mother is going to be in another hour, or I don't know what this particular activity is going to like how my father is going to react to it.
Yeah.
Will he be happy? Will he be upset? I don't know. I don't know what is going to happen in another 1 hour. Will my mother be in a good mood?
Yeah.
And when you grow up in that kind of a scenario, what happens is that you end up becoming the person who feels that if I please people, they wouldn't harm me.
Yeah.
And it shows up as an adult when when a person also goes through domestic abuse.
And violence. Absolutely. Yeah.
you know we often hear terms going around: why didn't she speak up, or why didn't she come forward, you know and she should have hit back, she should have said something. But how can you go against conditioning? How can you go against your own brain? You do it when you
Constantly,
have.
I'll just interrupt you for one bit.
Yeah.
You know, it is unbelievable, but this holds true not only for women. This
Mm.
holds true for men as well who have
Hmm.
had overpowering fathers, right?
Absolutely.
Where
Yeah.
that patriarchy has taken a toll on this particular aspect of their life, right?
Absolutely
Now
correct.
it is absolutely agnostic of the gender.
Yeah.
I think at times with people around me, I see this conversation doesn't even hold good about genders anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. Abby, like, I feel every gender, every age goes
yeah,
through this. Okay? Even as a child, when a person has been bullied back in school,
cool.
they
Yeah,
are often being told, why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you go to the teacher and everything? A lot of times that does not happen because in their mind, they are thinking, if I don't speak up, it will pass,
absolutely, absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
Same thing happens with men. Men who have had extremely overbearing fathers, where they are expected to always do the correct thing, where they are constantly criticized and punished even for making the slightest mistakes. You know, that when they grow up with that kind of a scenario, they constantly feel, if I appease my father, everything will be fine.
fine.
And then later on, these men, they grow up to become the people who feel like appeasing all the male figures of the society. Like, if I do these things, like, I often hear people saying, the other day only, one of my acquaintances, he told me that this is so cringe. Okay. And I asked him that, why do you think this is cringe? You used to like doing that in childhood. And he said, yeah, but now it's cringe. And when I spoke further with him, I found out that it's his group of office buddies who keep on telling it is cringe. So
yeah.
to
So they want a
match that,
validation amongst that peer group, right?
exactly. So everything is cringe. Speaking up for women, cringe. Standing up for human rights, cringe.
Cringe.
Saying nice things to people, being a romantic, reading
Cringe.
books,
Yeah.
cringe. Everything cringe, right? So yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And lastly, the lesser known sibling of the five is the flop response or the collapse response.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So flop is basically when my body goes through extreme shutdown, where the system gives up all resistance, okay? Like it can look helplessness, exhaustion, or even sometimes dissociation. So it is my body's last line of defense, okay, to minimize further harm which might be, caused by other people. I am trying to minimize that by surrendering, that I'm surrendering. You don't have to keep on attacking me anymore. So that is the last line of defense.
That's when they become a recluse, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's one very important part which is actually a question from one of our listeners. And I think it comes in amongst these five, but I really want to address it because it is very important for working professionals. So the question is about self-sabotage, right?
Mm.
There is sometimes that there is a certain goal that a person puts in their head to achieve, right? But the moment they achieve it, they retract or they pull back, right? Why?
Self-sabotage is, I feel it's one of the most misunderstood of the trauma responses. Okay.
Right.
On the surface, it looks like we are getting in our own way, procrastinating, rejecting opportunities, ruining relationships that are really good for us.
Yeah.
But the person who is doing a lot of self-sabotage underneath, for them, it's self-protection. So when someone has experienced trauma, their nervous system becomes wired to expect pain or disappointment.
Right.
So when something good begins to happen, a loving partner, one that we call green flag now, or a promising career, a sense of peace, the body doesn't read it as safe. It reads it as the unknown.
So that's where the fear of
And
the unknown comes in, right?
the unknown can feel more dangerous than the familiar struggle. So unconsciously, the mind finds ways to return to what feels familiar, like chaos, rejection, scarcity, right? So,
conflict, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And this is something I tell to all of my clients as well, that I always tell them healing is not about fixing bad habits. It's about rewiring. It's about teaching my nervous system that safety, joy, and love are no longer threats. So when safety starts feeling familiar, that's when self-sabotaging begins to fade.
Right. Very well said. Very well said, Kaushali. Now we'll address the big elephant in the room, right? We both are passionate about this, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Relationships. Okay. Uh, we Why do we often repeat the same pattern? Part one of the question.
Mhm.
And the second part of the question is, how does trauma affect us in our ability to form healthy relationships and, more importantly, draw boundaries?
Mm. Wow, you're bringing out all the big guns. But yes, this is something which is very, very important, and I feel this question is important for people of all ages. I think I have seen every person, okay, of every age group, be it a child, a teenager, an adult, young adult, or even somebody who is, um, like past their retirement age or at any age, people have dealt with interpersonal relationship issues. So I think this is valid for everyone, right?
Right.
Now, coming back to the question that, relationship trauma, it often stems from early attachment wounds, right? Like environments where love, safety, or validation were inconsistent. So the nervous system associates love with uncertainty and connection with anxiety.
Right.
So as adults, we unconsciously recreate very familiar dynamics. Not because we enjoy pain. A lot of, I see a lot of Instagram posts or a lot of memes saying that, oh, I love the pain. Nobody loves pain. Nobody
Nobody does.
enjoys pain.
Yeah.
Okay? We are seeking resolution. We are drawn to people who mirror the emotional climate of our past. Right? Because every time we are hoping, oh, this time we'll finally be chosen, we'll finally be seen, or loved the way we needed back then. And the reason we struggle to stand up for ourselves, create boundaries, is because in our early wiring, standing up equaled danger,
Rebellion also, right?
lack of affection, lack of
Absolutely.
acceptance,
Yes.
bad boy, bad girl.
That girl.
We are the certified bad girls of the society, Abby. But thank God we
Shani,
are.
on that note, thank you so much for such a delightful podcast. Very
Yeah.
insightful. One last thing that you'd like to tell any of our podcast viewers, one thing that you feel that is extremely important in this journey called life.
I do have a lot of things, right? Um, to anyone who is listening to our lovely podcast, I want to tell you that if you recognize yourself in these patterns that we have, again, this is a very vast topic. We just managed to touch upon a few things, but even in these patterns, if you happen to recognize yourself, please know that trauma is not a life sentence. It's a story that our body learned, and stories can be rewritten. You know, the fact that you are even curious, that you are listening to conversations like this, it means that your healing has already begun. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin by making your body feel safe again, moment by moment. And healing, again, a lot of people often keep saying, like, be ready to meet the new person and everything. Healing is not about becoming a new person, okay? It's about coming home to the person you were before the world taught you fear. So be patient with your nervous system. It's been protecting you for a long time. Yeah, it can be sometimes unhealthy, but it's still doing its work, right? So always understand that healing requires deep compassion.